Hi, I'm Blair, and welcome to Seller Knows. Today we're going to talk about some hot new items on the market, especially trending up over the last, I'd say, 3 to 5 years. And joining us today is Tom Ryan. He's the wine sales chain team manager, which is quite a mouthful, for Wirtz Beverage of Minnesota. We'll talk about what all that entails and stuff. But first, Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Blair.
And if you could tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into the industry, and
No problem. I have been part of this industry for over 18 years now. I started at a wholesaler named Johnson Brothers in Minnesota, basically right out of college, and spent 16 years, nearly 17 years at Johnson Brothers. And a couple years ago, I decided to make a change and ended up at Wirtz Beverage, Minnesota, where I'm very happy to be right now. Right now, my roles are basically responsible for, when it says wine sales chain team manager, it is a mouthful, I agree. However, it's basically responsible for the majority of the metro area chain business, anything from municipalities to major regional and local chains.
wonderful. Well, I'm glad you could join us today.
Happy to be here.
We're going to talk today about Moscato. The trend, and I think you've got some figures on this, the trend over the last about 5 years has been almost nothing short than astronomical.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about what's been going on?
Absolutely, Blair. The Moscato, however you want to call it, Moscato is really taken off, not just locally, but it is perfect. We are part of the trend. Usually we're one of the last to be a part of a trend nationally. We're one of the first to get on board with this one because of the sweet nature of Moscato. In Minnesota, we're known as a sweet market. So nationally, this particular varietal, just in the last 2 years, has grown 55%.
Wow.
Represents $478 million worth of revenue into just the wine industry. So that's a pretty astounding number if you think about it. And also, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it wasn't even the top 15 as a varietal. Now you're looking at it, just in the last 52 weeks, it's catapulted from number 13 all the way up to number 7. It's the number 7 selling varietal, growing at 55%, like I said earlier. So it's pretty phenomenal, and the trends don't seem to be slowing down at all.
You see it continuing to trend upward.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I know 5 years ago we might have had 2 Moscatos in the whole building, you know, and they were considered just dessert wines. And they were in the dessert wine section. Now we have a whole slew of different sizes, colors, flavors, and they range from across the country and abroad. We do carry some Moscato d'Astis as well. Can you tell us a little bit about the Moscato grape itself, some of its characteristics, and then maybe we'll talk about some of the differences from different regions or different areas around the world?
As you can see in front of us, there are a wide variety, as you said, of Moscato. These are just a handful of where these grapes come from, what they represent. As far as the grape itself goes all the way back to the Greeks and the ancient Romans. There are beliefs, there are mythological beliefs that this could be the grape that all other grapes descend from, which is kind of phenomenal. So you're looking at 2,000 years worth of history. Moscato itself is grown in Italy, it's grown in France, it's grown in Australia, it's grown in Argentina, it's grown in California, it's grown in Washington, it's grown all over the world. And that is due to basically this grape is very, very flexible, and it is very, very, I would say it's legendary for being able to adapt into certain environments, certain climates, certain soils. Many grapes, like a Chardonnay or a Pinot Noir, they need specific climates or even microclimates in order to produce the best grapes. Moscato seems to work whether it's a light Moscato grape or a dark Moscato grape all over the globe and in all kinds of climates.
How many different, I don't want to say clones, but how many different varieties of Moscatos are there approximately? I know that there's dark black clusters, and there's
approximately just if you look at the grape vinifera alone, they say there's over 200 varieties just of Muscat, Muscadel, Moscato. So there's a different region of the world for just about everything. You know, some of the other grapes that you've got an orange Muscat, which is mostly a dessert wine. Nowadays, the predominant growth that we've seen in the marketplace is just with the still wine. Moscato can be used for fortified wine, which is mostly in desserts, in still wine, and also probably the oldest use that we're familiar with is the sparkling wine, particularly the Moscato d'Asti that comes from Italy. And now you're looking at in Australia and in California, the sparkling Moscato is kind of getting its firm grasp of the industry as well.
Sure.
So when you asked earlier, do you see it still rising? I certainly see it rising because of there's so many uses for this grape and the particular characteristics that people respond to, the consumer responds to, particularly the female consumer, which represents
a significant portion of the buying public.
And we're glad that they do, of course. But it definitely tends to be sweet, and it smells apricot-y, peachy, orange blossom. So it's very, very. The female consumer likes it, and it's a sweet consumer likes it. So it's very, very inviting for the consumer to not just try one, but to try multiple.
Yeah, I mean, I've had experience with still wine Moscatos that, and I don't mean this in a negative content, but it coats your palate so firmly and heavily with that sweetness and that fruit flavor that it's almost like if you've ever had the juice out of canned pears or something like
exactly.
that. And I've also experienced, you know, Moscatos that lean more towards the drier side.
Exactly.
So.
And that's part of the style, whether it's fortified, sparkling, whatever. You're going to find a very fruity, and this is, Moscato itself is all about the grapes. This is a grape-driven product. It smells fresh, it tastes fresh, yet there are two styles to it. You can get that sweetness, or you can also get the bone dry effect that you'll find in some fortified or even in some of the higher end dessert wines.
Just to review real quickly, we have the still wines, Moscato still wines that are usually almost a straw kind of color. Before that, I guess, came the Moscato d'Asti, Moscato being the grape, d'Asti being the region in Italy.
Yes, sir.
And that is a sparkling wine. I would say not as many bubbles as champagne, but certainly
more a frizzante style, if you will. Like you were about to say, small bubbles. I apologize for interrupting.
No, that's okay.
Smaller bubbles, very clean and refreshing.
And that has been taken to another level where they're also making the sparkling wines in California and, as you said, Australia and other places. So you can see that it really runs the gamut in color, flavors, and styles.
And particularly the colors and flavors, because there are so many 200 varieties just of this particular grape. You'll find the ability to make a pink Moscato or a red Moscato. People, especially the consumer nowadays that is a transitional consumer, or they don't like to have that heavy tannin flavor that you might get from an awesome California Cabernet, perhaps. They'll drink their red wines, and they've graduated from perhaps a Lambrusco up to a refreshing Moscato. It's just red or pink.
And the Moscatos are naturally lower in alcohol as well because they're higher in sugar?
A lot of times, yes.
But not counting the fortified.
Correct. So you got to make that clear. But definitely, you're usually looking between 8 and 10%. Just for the still wines, and a lot of times you're going to find most wines anywhere between 13 and 14. Yeah,
we have definitely developed a market here. I know for a fact in Minnesota, in our area here. As I said, the trend does not seem to be slowing down or stopping. Almost every producer that we have of a line of wine, you know, for example, Red Tree or Sutter Home or Fetzer, or whatever it might be, they're all coming with a Moscato now.
Absolutely, I mean, well aware.
Yeah, you can't really have a winery and not be bringing a Moscato forward. If you haven't done it yet, you have plans to do it.
That's correct, and we started seeing actually, as far as our execution standards, we're actually putting Moscato sections into our stores. Where it used to be, we would put a miscellaneous white section, or the Moscatos, like you said, there was 2 of them. Okay, we'll
Slide
just
them in with the
slide
desserts.
'em in the desserts, correct. You know, it's a wonderful, great variety because of its many uses, because of its many styles. It's also got great history to it, you know, which wine is about history and romance at times. And it's also about flavor, and there's a different flavor profile for pretty much everything you've got. Everything from pouring it over ice cream with the desserts and the fortifieds to celebrating with the Moscato d'Asti or even a sparkling Moscato from Australia.
Sipping
or
on the
California.
deck with a fruit cup.
Amen.
I mean, that's
Amen.
perfect.
Amen. So,
Tom Ryan, Wine Sales Chain Team Manager with Wirtz Beverage of Minnesota. Your card must be about this long.
it's the same size as yours, Blair.
Thank you very much for joining us. We really
Thanks, buddy.
appreciate it.
Really
Hope
appreciate
you learned
it.
something. Hope you get a chance to try some of these great Moscatos. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on Cellar Notes.